All right, joining us now to discuss, Washington correspondent for Spectrum News, Kevin Frey. Kevin, good morning. Wonderful to see you. So this, of course, has been a catastrophic storm. We are still learning all of the contours of the damage. It's been happening overnight. Obviously, it's going to take the sun rising and us kind of getting a sense of what's happened to really get our heads around this. But obviously, this is the heat of a presidential campaign. Florida, not really considered a swing state. Georgia, where it's headed next, is one of those. But regardless, the president and vice president have a role to play in helping any place in the United States recover from something like this. What are the imperatives for someone like Harris in a campaign moment like this one?
Right. I mean, it is natural disasters like this where leadership is defined. And so this is a way to very easily reach across the aisle to show yourself as above politics. I remember back in 2012, I believe it was, right in the lead up to that election, you saw Barack Obama go to New Jersey. I think he embraced Chris Christie, then the governor of New Jersey. That was seen as this very calcifying moment in that campaign in that last couple weeks before Election Day. This is a chance for them to be basically above board and to be looked at as someone who is in command, who knows what they're doing, and in a real test for leadership. Yeah, and we've also seen, of course, the governor, Ron DeSantis, is a Republican. There's going to be a Republican governor, Brian Kemp. I mean, you mentioned that moment with Chris Christie and Barack Obama. There are choices to make, right? I remember the Romney campaign was very upset that Chris Christie was basically embracing Obama in this moment as he was trying to, of course, unseat. They were running against each other in that presidential race. Brian Kemp, a little bit of a different type of figure, but may have to decide how much to embrace the Democratic leadership in this moment. Right, because he's been walking this very interesting line where Trump had bashed him previously and now is trying to basically make entrees to him to boost that relationship. And certainly Kemp is seemingly being somewhat reciprocal. And so now it's a matter of, does he fully embrace Harris for the betterment of his state. Right. So, Kevin, I also want to ask you, as you are, a New York, you cover New York, basically, but from here in Washington for a New York audience, the mayor of America's largest, most famous city, indicted for basically taking bribery. And this has to do, it centers on some of the most salacious allegations center on Turkish officials trying to give him plane tickets on Turkish Airways, pay for hotels for a trip he was planning to take. This is from the indictment. This was an Adams staffer writing to the airline manager at Turkish Airlines. Adams, asking, where can they go in Turkey? Do you have a recommendation? The manager says, the Four Seasons. The staffer writes back, well, it's too expensive. The manager says, why does he care? He's not going to pay. His name will not be on anything either. The staffer says, super. What's going on here? How much pressure is Adams under to resign? So, I mean, the pressure, at least here in Washington, is coming from the more progressive lanes of the party. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Nidhi Velasquez yesterday, basically saying, if I was in his shoes, I would resign today. There's also mounting pressure within the state itself from various political factions. However, we've not seen some of the key leaders, for example, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, come out and say it's time for him to go. They call it serious, but also say it's essentially time for the legal process to play itself out. One kind of foil to keep an eye on here is what Governor Kathy Hochul is going to do. Her polling's not great. She's trying to basically, rally her support within the state. And she has this interesting power within the New York government that she could, it's not really been tested, but she could remove him from office. She is definitely leaving that option open based on the statement that she released last night, but basically said in that same statement, Eric Adams needs to do some thinking about what's best for the city of New York. All right. Kevin Frey for us this morning. Kevin, so grateful to have you. Thank you very much for being here on a Friday.